Hello everyone and welcome back to Mossy Bottom for a very simple but I hope informative video in which I'm going to tackle the 10 most asked questions in the comments since we moved here to Finland. Although it has to be said, of the 1,376 comments on my last video at the time of recording, I think there were about 5 questions and 1,371 suggestions, many of them expressed in capital letters. Thanks for that, folks. I read them all, rest assured, including "don't pour water on your car" about 500 times and "where's your hat" another 500 or so more. All I can say is thank you for caring. There were, of course, plenty of questions in previous videos, all those awkward things which, frankly, I didn't think you nosy people were even interested in. Now, what I'm not going to answer in this video is the questions which I directly answer in previous videos. So if you want to know why I left Ireland or why I moved to Finland, watch Moving to Finland, What Was I Thinking? And if you want to know more about my property here, how much land I have, how much it cost, what the buildings are like, then watch the property tour and land tour videos that followed. And to help me out with this video, my partner Angela, who's sat right there, is going to pose the questions by reading them out from a piece of paper. Thank you, Angela.
Hello, everyone. So question number 1 is, how are you as a Brit able to move to Finland, a new country post-Brexit?
So this is probably the most asked question in the comments, I imagine, by British people. So let's jump right in. Yes, I am a UK citizen, even though I've lived in Ireland for well over a decade, which meant I had to apply for a 5-year residence permit when moving here to Finland. And I was eligible for that because of Angela and Juno, my daughter. If you have immediate family members living with you in Finland or moving to Finland with you who are EU citizens, then you are entitled to live here. The residence permit has to be renewed every 5 years, and I believe after 10, it used to be 5, you can, if you wish, apply for citizenship. Though that involves a Finnish or Swedish language test, which the incumbent government has decided to make harder. And of course, we researched this thoroughly before moving here. We visited the Finnish embassy in Dublin quite a few times. Thank you for all your help, the wonderful staff there. We made phone calls and sent numerous emails to Migri, the Finnish immigration service, and then pre-booked an in-person appointment before even stepping foot in the country. So if you're thinking about doing something similar, please make sure you do the same. But why didn't you just apply for Irish citizenship, I hear you cry? Wouldn't that have made it easier? Well, yes, it would have spared me a heck of a lot of bureaucracy, and I was actually entitled to Irish citizenship, having lived there for so long. And I did consider it. But ultimately, I am at heart British. I have a very dry, tongue-in-cheek British sense of humour. I couldn't sound more British if I tried. I have that whole polite, stiff upper lip thing, which no doubt I'm stuck with until the day I die. Although I have fallen in love with Ireland through living there, I always felt like an Englishman in Ireland. And honestly, whatever you might think of my native UK, I'm still personally very proud to originate from there. You can take an Englishman out of England, and property prices drove me out long ago, I'm afraid, but you can't take England out of an Englishman. Perhaps one day when I win the lottery, I'll return to that green and pleasant land, and no, that's not sarcasm. I grew up on the edge of the North Yorkshire moors, and that place is magical.
Okay, so question 2 is, did you consider Sweden? How about the US or Canada?
So Angela and I definitely considered Sweden. It's a beautiful country with a similar climate to Finland, arguably better for growing food if you go a bit further south. There's an abundance of old cottages and country houses, often with a hectare or 2 of land for sale, just as there are here in Finland. There's another big advantage too, and that's the language. Angela is a native German speaker, and Swedish is somewhat similar to German, so it would have been a lot easier for her to learn than Finnish. I'm sure it would for me too, to be honest. Ultimately, we didn't have the option to move to Sweden and still don't because they wouldn't have granted me, a UK citizen, a residence permit there. In Sweden, your EU family members have to have been resident in Sweden for 5 years or more before you can join them, making it impossible for mixed EU, non-EU families like ours to emigrate there, even from other EU countries, unless those families are willing to live separately for 5 years. No thanks. Way to go, Sweden. Of course, here in Finland, Swedish is a national language as well, and our property is right on the border between the Swedish-speaking and Finnish-speaking municipalities. So I think we kind of get the best of both worlds, and we get to be just 2 kilometers from the sea with the Turku archipelago right on our doorstep, which we both love. As for the US and Canada, there are definitely areas in both countries which appeal to us and still do. I think compared to Europe, it's a lot easier to live off-grid in North America. There's far less bureaucracy and box ticking culturally, and the cost of living is a lot cheaper too. There are cons, of course, like everywhere else in the world. The biggest obstacle for us, though, as a family, would be the right to live there. At this time, self-sufficiency is not considered a skilled trade, so they just don't want us. Maybe one day.
So question 3 is, do you speak or are you learning Finnish?
Angela and I both spoke almost no Finnish when we moved here, apart from the tiny bit which we learnt on holiday in the summer. Angela a lot more than me. And we had no friends or family here either. But of course, it is a priority for us now we live here to learn the language. Although I've come to believe actually that it is possible to get by with only English here in Finland. Possible, yes, but it certainly isn't possible to integrate or to work unless you're extremely fortunate like I am. Angela will, when she qualifies, be working in the health system here, so she's spending hours every day learning Finnish with the aim of passing the intermediate Uki test. Did I say that right?
Uki test?
Uki test in May this year. And if that sounds ambitious, especially with a little one to care for too, well, I'd have to agree. A language expert we saw said it takes a year to reach an intermediate level. But then Angela is a bit of a savant when it comes to language, speaking English, German, Romanian and Korean at a native level. Please test her in the comments, folks. She would love that.
No, thanks. Thank you.
So I think she considers the hardest language to learn in Europe, Finnish, to be a fitting challenge to her skills, though she'd never admit that. I, on the other hand, prefer the type of challenge that involves using my hands to make or grow things. But yes, I am trying my best to learn Finnish too, mostly because I just hate sounding like an idiot when I go into shops and can only speak English.
Question 4 is, how and where did you find your property?
Okay, again, this is a very common question which I'm asked in the comments, as it was actually when we lived in County Sligo. The answer is online property portals or websites. In Ireland, daft.ie or myhome.ie, which are essentially duplicates of each other. Here in Finland, the best portal that I found for rural property is oikotie.fi. Did I say that right?
I think so. Oikotie.
Oikotie.fi. That's where we found this house and most of the other properties which we viewed. There isn't an English language version, but you can use the translate function in Google Chrome or other browsers to browse in English or any other language. That works really well. You can also filter by plot size, so we were looking exclusively for properties with over a hectare. I wish that was something you could do on daft.ie or myhome.ie. Frustratingly, you can't. You can also select cottages specifically or forest farms. And the best thing with property websites in Finland, and Sweden too, by the way, hemnet.se is a great one there, is that each listing includes overhead pictures taken with a drone. So you can actually see the area around the house and how many proximate neighbours there are. key considerations for any recluse like me.
That's right.
And you're shown the exact location of the property on Google Maps. Unlike property websites in France, Germany, Austria, and other European countries, which I have to say are awful. Possibly because of privacy laws in those countries, I'm not really sure. From a buyer's perspective though, it's just so off-putting when all you get is a close-up of the front door and the rooms inside without the location or the environment around the house. Again, in Finland, oikotie.fi. And no, I have no affiliation with them whatsoever. Next question.
Question number 5. Do you miss Ireland and your small holding there?
Again, I think right now I'm too caught up in the adventure of moving here to stop and look back. But I'm sure I will in time. Living in Ireland was a tremendously formative part of my life and something I definitely want to celebrate in the future. It's a bit of a cliche, I suppose, but I discovered how to be myself there. And that's why I created this channel, to share that with people. I have so many wonderful memories from my cottage and small holding, mostly of making things or growing things, of animals or working with like-minded people who wanted to share that life with me. It was joyous. But I suppose I feel that way here too, I do. It hasn't stopped for me and I'm still walking that same path. It's just taken me somewhere new and bigger. Some of you might see this as a step backwards, undoing the progress which I made in Ireland, but that's certainly not how I see it at all. Because the journey, the being inspired by a piece of land or a property, visualizing what I want to turn it into and then setting out to make that happen, that's the best part. It makes me grin from ear to ear just thinking about it. So being closer to that destination, the end point, when all the work is done and I get to sit and relax, that doesn't make me feel better. Don't get me wrong, I'm very proud of what I achieved in Ireland, but I don't lament having let it go and moved on. All I feel now is excitement for what's to come.
So question number 6 is, what happened to moss and the other animals in Ireland?
Okay, so I'm going to answer this again because I keep getting asked by people who haven't seen. I actually published a video last year called 2023 Update, in which I talk more about Moss. Unfortunately, at the beginning of that year, he became very ill, and as a result, I didn't make any videos for 5 or 6 months. We lost him in the spring, and I buried him beneath the whitethorn tree, which you may remember from my folklore video of the same name. And that tree is still there, by the way, and I like to think that Moss, being Moss, probably found a way through to the fairy world, where no doubt he's keeping them company in his own unique and relentless way, as he kept me company for so many wonderful years. He'll never be forgotten, and not just by me. That's one of the great things about YouTube. I know his picture is still framed on the walls of dozens of homes around the world, from the calendars which I sent out. What a wonderful legacy. The other animals were all rehomed to people I knew personally or through the channel. The Coonies joined another Cooney farm on a much larger property. My ladies now have some male company. The rabbits joined other rabbits. The chickens went to an apple orchard. The ducks to an avid duck keeper. The cats we would have loved to bring with us, and we tried getting as far as booking flights for them. But unfortunately, red tape, of which there is an awful lot here in Finland, especially to do with animals, got in the way and eventually beat us. So the cats stayed with the new owner at Mossy Bottom in Ireland, where I am more than certain they will happily live out their days.
Question 7. Do you ever long for an easy life?
If by easy life you mean a modern home with a thermostat which needs no work, a steady 9 to 5 with a generous pension, a holiday in the sun every year, and all the trappings that come with that, then honestly I kind of lived that life in my 20s, minus the holidays because I was saving money. And I've never been more miserable. I felt trapped. I felt owned even by a system which I didn't sign up to. And I felt powerless to control my own life. The system permitted me to go to work when, where and how it decided, to specialize in a single role in order to earn money, to pay others to provide and manage all the things which were needed to keep me alive. Grow food for me to eat, create energy to keep me warm, build and repair my home. I wasn't allowed to be a complete, well-rounded human being in the way that my ancestors were for thousands of years, and in the way that I wanted to be. I think so many people watch these videos, be it here in Finland or back in Ireland before, and they focus on this perceived destination or endpoint, as I mentioned, that they want me to get to as quickly as possible so I can start enjoying life again, get the house finished, get all the hard work done on the land, get a workshop, get a wood store, get everything done as quickly as you can, optimize everything so life can begin. And yes, I know I talk about those things in videos, but I've got news for you folks. It's the doing them that's given meaning and purpose to my life, not the completing them. Yes, like everyone else, I have goals and plans, of course. I'm a dreamer, and those steer me in a particular direction. But I am not rushing to reach some imaginary finish line. And believe me, living without much stuff is really easy. It's the pursuit of happiness that brings happiness. Once you tick all those boxes, what the heck is left? Self-importance. People often comment about how cheerful and optimistic I appear in videos, and although I have my grumpy days, as Angela will definitely attest, yes. I think I'm very aware of how damn lucky I am getting to live this way. I've seen the other side, that normal way of living, and while it may work for many people, it clearly does, it did not work for me. I also have to say, I genuinely love the figuring things out part of this lifestyle. I don't want to be an expert at something and spend my life doing that one thing really well. I want to keep learning and creating in so many different areas of life. That's what gives me joy, and I embrace making mistakes along the way. And 6 years now of doing this YouTube thing has taught me that there are a lot of people like me out there who essentially just want to be left the heck alone to make those mistakes and enjoy all the victories that come after them. I think that's why I have an audience, frankly. An audience, of course, that likes giving me advice.
Question 8. Aren't you worried about ticks and mosquitoes living in Finland? Yeah.
Yes, ticks were a problem in Ireland too, especially walking through long grass in the spring and early summer. I know that Lyme's disease is on the increase there, and I know there are other infections spread by ticks. I've talked to Angela a lot about that recently. In Ireland, I would wear wellies and long trousers when walking through those areas, and I would check for ticks every day, and I'll do the same here. It's a risk you take, and it will be here as well, but then, you know, getting in a car is a much bigger risk. Living is a risk at the end of the day. You can only take the necessary precautions and just hope. As for mosquitoes, well, in Ireland we had swarms of midges, which were horrendously irritating, but they didn't cause an immune reaction in me personally, unlike in Angela. I was here in Finland though in the summer, and there were no midges, though I know they do exist here. We just didn't encounter them, but there were certainly lots of mosquitoes. And when I get bitten by a mosquito, it turns ugly pretty quickly. I'm going to steal a line from Angela's blog. We're talking bubonic plague ugly. So yeah, I have to, look out for that, frankly, when the summer comes round. I think being right on the coast is a bit of an advantage. The windier a location is, generally the less mosquitoes there are. And I'll take all the usual precautions again and measures in terms of growing certain plants and spraying certain things on myself. Beyond that, you suck it up just like you do the cold.
Question 9. Do you have plans to revive the folklore stories and dream cottage videos? Also, what about the Mossy Bottom calendar?
Okay, so the Dream Cottage series I absolutely loved filming. It was very popular with you folks, so yes, I already have plans to revive it here in Finland. I think viewing houses here this last summer when we were looking to buy, and we saw quite a few before buying this one, really opened my eyes to how much rural Finland has to offer. It was so much fun. So yes, I fully intend when the weather gets warmer to go out there and discover some potential mossy bottoms in the wilds of Finland and perhaps other countries too. I'm not averse to travelling a bit. If you have such a property for sale or will do in the near future, then send me an email. Include pictures, details, Google Maps locations, all that sort of information. I'd love to hear from you. So the folklore series was unfortunately not so popular, despite being the hardest by far to film and edit. Each of those videos was easily a week's work for me. I think people associate my channel with factual vlogs, so anything with a fictional tone to it just falls a bit flat with you guys. But saying that, I do love storytelling. I talked earlier about specialising in something in life, and that was kind of my speciality, at least before I studied horticulture. So I don't want to stop doing it. I think though, in the future the way I do that will change. I might even start a new YouTube channel, perhaps involving my daughter if she's willing, but as of now, those are just vague plans, we'll see. The Mossy Bottom calendar was again something I love to create. Either myself or Angela took every one of the pictures which featured in it, and I wrote all the verses too, which was a particular joy for me. And we both have very fond memories of packing the calendars in November and December and sending them all around the world. I think Angela mentioned in one of her blogs on Patreon that it was like being Santa's elves for a week or two, and I have to agree, although it was hard work. We did everything in-house, from printing the labels to making customs declarations and packing everything. In spite of that, it was very enjoyable. And again, it's something I would love to bring back. I know there's an audience for them, and goodness me, we already have some stunning photographs from here in Finland. The snag is the postage cost and the effect that that has on the price. In Ireland, about 75% of the cost of the calendar was actually postage. We were lucky if we made more than $1 on each one. So yes, we're up for the work involved, but we need a solution to the postage part, because I suspect here in Finland that that postage cost would be significantly higher again than it was in Ireland. I need to explore digital options in which you print the calendar locally and maybe different sizes to make postage cheaper. And as always, if anyone out there knows more about that than me and can perhaps offer some solutions, then do please get in touch.
Question 10. What is the song at the end of every video, and is that you singing it?
Astonishingly, this is probably the most frequently asked question across all my videos in the last 2 or 3 years, even though I've answered it in comments hundreds of times. It's a song called A Quaker Town, which I wrote about 14 or 15 years ago, back in my 20s. During a period in which I was really not very happy at all, and quite resentful of that system which I felt trapped in and talked about earlier. I was desperate to change my life, I just couldn't really work out how to do that. The recording is me, aged 28 or 29 I think, playing the guitar and singing at the same time, so it's a bit rough around the edges, but I'm proud of it nonetheless. In fact, teaching myself to play the guitar to a very amateur level and writing and recording some songs was one of the few things I did in my 20s which I do look back on with a great sense of pride. The only other useful thing I did was to earn and save enough money to start me on this journey. And I suppose that period of my life also gave me the perspective needed to appreciate what came after. If you want to hear the full song, then I've added that original recording, rough edges included, from about 12 years ago to my Patreon channel. And yes, I am that old, 41, if you're wondering. How old are you, Angela? That's it for this video. Thank you as always for watching and supporting my channel here on YouTube. If you have any more questions, do let me know in the comments. If you have any more advice about windshields or woolly hats, do what you're gonna do. Thank you so much for your support, as always. From me, Angela, Juno, our little one, and one more mystery addition to the Mossy Bottom family, who I shall not reveal just yet. Take care, and bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Oh, I was born in a Quaker town where folks worked good and hard for the ones they loved and got above. Each day they punched their card, and when evening came back home again, they'd rest a while and say, "'Tis a hard old life, but for kids and wife we'll work as another day." When the sun rose low, back to work they'd go, singing on their way. Oh, for job and home to call our own, we'll work as another day. Oh, in a Quaker town till 18 years had passed. Then I packed my bags and I said farewell for a better life at last. And for 5 years more I studied hard, and the state paid harder still. For that better life I earned my debt on her education bill. Till I threw my cap and they all did clap and shake my hand and say, "Well done, my son, now work's begun, you'll pay that debt one day." Oh,